Welcome to the Buff Show on American Adversaries Radio Network. Good to have you with us today. And we're here with the American Adversaries Radio Network host, Christopher Hart. Thanks for being here today.
Well, Matt Buff, it's a pleasure to be here.
We're going to be doing a lot of shows together, guys. It's going to be a lot of fun. Of course, we're in the election season right now, and we're going to talk more about that later. But on this episode, we want to really dive into the American Adversaries Radio Network. First of all, Chris, why is it called the American Adversaries?
Good question. Well, originally we wanted to call it the Adversaries, and the reason is because if you're an American citizen, you are an American adversary, because ours is an adversarial form of government, a form of government that was inspired by our Creator and designed purposely through our founding fathers so that we may not have to endure a tyrannical form of government, which, by the way, has been the norm throughout human history. Tyrannical forms of government in one form or another is how humans have governed themselves until now, until the American experience. And hence the phrase American exceptionalism. It's because we have an exceptional form of government. It's the exception in human history. Our very way of life is an exceptional way of life in human history because we're free and we cherish our freedom and we hope to spread it worldwide as people can and want it, can have it and want it. And so that's why we call it the American Adversaries. And also because it is an adversarial form of government, it's kind of like our judicial system. It's up to us to be sort of the jury, okay? Be informed, hear both sides of the case, of the argument, and then we decide at the end who wins the day, and that's who we vote for. So it's a blessing to have this form of government, and that's why we call the show the American Adversaries.
So it's not about just arguing with people all the time. I love when you give that real description of the adversarial aspect of not just the radio show, but how it ties into our government. And as long as we have the rights as American citizens to vote and have a process, that's what separates us from the rest of the world. And it's a great thing.
Indeed it is. It was never the intent for the show to be a show about debating or arguing or something like that. That can be very tiresome and very confusing for listeners. Our intent is to be entertaining, educational, inspiring, hopefully, and inspirational, and engaging. And if we can do that, I think the audience really gets the most out of the experience.
Well, they can learn a lot, too, not just with the different guests you bring on, but it's really cool lately. If you go to AmericanAdversaries.com, you can hear a lot of interviews with people in the administration. So you can hear inner workings, not just the government, but what's going on the campaigns and stuff like that. So that's a brilliant thing that you can hear on the radio, too. Now, there's a lot of I heard Hacksaw Jim Duggan promo on the show the other day.
Yep.
We got Brian Blair, the Killer Bee.
That's
on the show.
right.
There's a lot of wrestlers on the show, and I see... And on the website, we see that there's a comparison from the American Adversaries to professional wrestling. Talk about that and how you got to that point.
Well, what we do is we actually liken politics and the political process to professional wrestling. We see a lot of similarities, and it's not meant to insult professional wrestlers, I guarantee you that, and obviously not politicians. But you have to admit both are theater of the absurd. Oftentimes, right?
Oh, absolutely.
It's all about drama. Much of the drama is purposely created to keep the audience engaged. And also you have the media acting as the announcers, reading the scripted storylines, making sure everybody knows who the good guy and the bad guy is, because at the end of the day, the same psychological dynamic is at play in both politics and professional wrestling.
Yes.
And that is the constant ongoing battle between good and evil. And that is at play, and that's what keeps people engaged and involved. And I think our president understands that better than any Republican has. But I think Democrats innately understand this because their presentations, their policies, their arguments are always emotionally based. It's always about the good guy versus the bad guy. And that's what makes it all work.
Yes, absolutely. Now, when you talk about heel and face in wrestling, you have the bad guys and the good guys. Seems like today the media seems to be on the side of the heel.
Well, I don't know. I think that they would depict Donald Trump as the heel, and all of theirs are the baby faces. Heels, of course, in professional wrestling being the so-called bad guys, and the baby faces being the good guys. But the media, once again, they act as the announcers. They're there so that you understand in their mind, in the way they see things, who the good guy and the bad guy is. And Donald Trump's a perfect example of this. They constantly berate the man. He can't do anything right. Everything he does is wrong. He's incompetent. He's, just think of every negative adjective they've ever used, and that is to depict him as the heel, as the bad guy in this play. And you're going to see that a lot more between now and the election. And it may not be Bernie Sanders. It may be Bernie Sanders. It's more likely to be Joe Biden. We've had our thumb on Joe Biden ever since the beginning, when everybody else was saying he was toast and, he was DOA because of Hunter Biden and all that. I said, no, wait a minute.
We knew the fix was coming.
Well, I said, wait a minute. I said, this is the best thing that's ever happened to Joe Biden. The best thing that's ever happened to him since he got in the campaign, because it elevated him. Now, he sort of squandered it until recently, Super Tuesday.
Well, because that's Joe Biden, the way he talks and the way he acts.
They're going to make him the sweetest old guy that you ever met in your life, even though he's all known as around us as Hands Biden, right?
Yeah.
Oh, he's going to be the sweetest old man against this mean old guy, Donald J. Trump, even though Trump's his junior by about 6 years.
They can try to spin it that way, Chris, but do you think it's really possible with the amount of footage that's out there on the creepy stuff and the corn pop stuff?
Well, it's a situation where the media once again drives the message by being the announcers in the play, all right? And it's theater of the absurd. So it kind of doesn't matter how ridiculous the message is, as long as they deliver it in a serious fashion with a furrowed brow and, oh, we have breaking news again today. This is blockbuster news. Donald J. Trump has done something wrong again, and he's...
Their hair's on fire, and it's just absolutely terrible.
Exactly. I tell you what, it's going to be a lot of fun doing these with you, Matt.